Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before. Today, today's video is a little different than most of my other content. And I have actually not even been on YouTube for such a long time because I really have just been in a huge transition. I moved my home, I moved clear across town, and just internally, a lot of things have been going on in my life. And so today's video is me going to EDC, but not in the traditional manner. I actually went to evangelize, and it was also my first time evangelizing ever. So it was a little scary for me. I was confident that that's what I wanted to do, that that's what the Lord was sitting me to do, but it's something I had never done. And of course, being an esthetician, I really just kind of showed the side of me preparing my body, preparing my mind, and preparing my skin because that's really important. EDC is in the middle of the desert. Um, I was here in Las Vegas. That's where I live. But as a local, I don't actually go out and hang out in the sun very often. So, I just shared my journey, just a small vlog of me getting ready and just throughout my day, the things that I did before I even got there. I actually went with a ministry that does this kind of thing all the time. And I actually, want to invite you to watch their content because they get deep into what is actually happening as far as the evangelizing. I felt like, it was my first time evangelizing. I really just wanted to pay attention and to learn what I actually needed to be doing. Um, but, you know, of course, I was excited to turn it into content, but I didn't feel comfortable like whipping my camera out in the middle of prayer. I felt like my focus really needed to be on actually learning and being present in the moment. So I will tag that ministry so you can go and watch all the other fun, exciting things that were happening within, you know, the outreach. And so I'm going to show you the mini vlog and then I'll come back and I'll share my testimony of what actually happened during that time.
Rise and shine.
It's 8 o'clock in the morning and I have to start my day now because there's a lot of things that I have to do before I actually go to this EDC. So today is actually a very long day. So other than going to EDC, I have to do my mom duties and take my daughter to dance. And I also made it a commitment to meet up with my pastor to do something at my church because I do serve in the children's ministry at my local church. So I am drinking. This is a smoothie. It is a knockoff of if you ever went to Whole Foods and got the green nutty buddy smoothie. I'm just trying to nourish my body. Normally I would go for coffee, but I really want to nourish my body with all the vitamins and minerals that I could possibly get because I am going to be in the heat today. Okay, I'm having a dilemma right now because I was going to wear my hair in two braids again because, it's really hot out, but I really like the way my braid set came out. So like maybe I could do like a half up, half down. Should I wear my hair in two braids or half up, half down?
Um, braids.
Braids. Is done. Clearly we went with the braids. Okay, I had to redo this braid and it still looks terrible, but I don't have a whole lot of time. I have to leave my house by 10 a.m. and it is like 9:15 or something. I want to show you my outfit because I really tried to be like, I don't know, business casual, not business casual, but like EDC business casual. I don't know. Because you want to blend in, you don't want to stand out. You know, you can't show up in like your Sunday best. But I mean, we have on the full armor of God, of course. So this is it. A new backpack. So this is also part of the outfit. I'm gonna get thirsty. I have to fill it up and all that stuff. I have to pack the bag. I'm gonna put some essentials in there for being out in this heat. Okay, it's literally like 1:30 p.m. and I have not been drinking enough water. But let me just tell you, I just I had to do something with my pastor. It was only supposed to be me and my female pastor. I don't know. She's a pastor. I don't know what they call first ladies, but no, she's an actual pastor. They're both she's a co-pastor. So it was just me and her, and then her husband, my other pastor, shows up. And so, you know, we were finishing everything we needed, and then they both prayed for me. So I'm feeling so on fire today. I could do something with these brows. I have about 20 minutes before my daughter gets out of dance. So I'm probably gonna do that. But praise the Lord, man, that just worked out so good. And I still have a couple hours before I actually have to be there, but I think now's a good time to put some eyebrows on. So I got my bag. It's packed with everything that I need. Right now I really need to fill the water thing up. So I think this is way more important than brows right now. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this up. Pack. Sorry, you can't see my head and this at the same time. Just going to pack the water in here. Perfect. Okay, I'm here. I have my window rolled down, so there's some music going on. I'm waiting for everyone else, but I did put my brows on, but I do have to like get myself situated. I got my bag out the trunk, and I'm gonna just brought my whole bathroom sink here. You know, some sunscreens, shimmer, a little skincare blush for this, and this is electrolytes. So while everyone else is getting buzzed, I am getting fueled, you know, fueled with the fire. So I'm trying to let my phone charge also, but put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken.
Like this, because it dries up.
In Sacramento, it's not bad.
it is literally 11 p.m. Man, I finally took this hat off. I was afraid to take it off because I didn't know what my hair actually looked like underneath. But God is so good. And listen, I'm gonna sit down and just give my testimony of how the Lord worked tonight. But right now I'm gonna just put my maps in and go home because I'm just overwhelmed and tired. But yeah. Okay, I really hope you enjoyed that mini vlog. It was only about 8-10 minutes, but it was a very long day. I literally woke up at like 8 a.m. and I didn't get home till I left my home at about 10 a.m. and I didn't get home until like midnight, which isn't too late. It's actually perfect. But just considering I had to, take my daughter to dance, I had to go help with something at my church, and then I had to take my daughter to a birthday party. And then I went and I actually sat in my car for 2 hours before I walked inside, or I didn't actually go inside. We were located outside, right outside of the entrance. But listen, there was plenty of people. There was still a lot going on, even right outside of the EDC. So, just to give you a brief background or a brief of my testimony, my background, why this is even so important to me. So, I came from darkness, and I do have a few videos that I talk a little bit about it. Um, I I don't know exactly. I can't think of one off the top of my head. But I do know that I have videos where I touch on my past. But I did come from a very dark path. Um, I was the one that was EDC and raves were never my scene, but I was constantly in the clubs. I was constantly searching for something, searching for fun, and I would end up in these nightlife places. I danced for almost 10 years. Um, and I don't mean like, go dancing. I mean in a strip club. And, with that industry in itself comes with so many like demonic strongholds that I had to break off of me even once I did started to follow Christ. It was a long journey. So I have a deep understanding of what it's like to be in these kind of scenes. And it's a fake happiness. Like, of course everything is fun and exciting in the moment, and even like, getting up to that moment. But the reality is, you go home, and once all of the substances wear off, you feel empty. And you're just left with, you're back to your reality. And so I chased this not even every weekend, like throughout the week, whenever I was able to, I was chasing this. And so I have a deep compassion for people that are, you know, out in these lifestyles. So aside from that, I really had to grow in my I had to mature in my faith to even be able to get to that level where I can even go out there and not be judgmental, but be loving and be open to learning how to reach these people. Because in that scene, a lot of people are on all kinds of substances, and substances that a lot of them I've never even tried, so I can't even speak to that. But either way, they're all one and the same. Okay. And that's it. The Lord does not want any of his children there, whether you believe in him or not. And I actually didn't know how demonic these festivals get. I'm just obviously, from the outside looking in, as someone who is completely surrendered to Christ, I know that this is definitely not a holy place, but actually going and experiencing it, and even like the thickness in the air, you can feel the demonic presence in the air. And I wasn't even inside, so I can only imagine how thick it was in there. And there were times where I had to kind of step to the side and just like regroup. And it was a beautiful experience, but it wasn't easy. When I first arrived, if seen the portion of me where I was like kind of worshiping, singing along to a Christian song, that was actually towards the end after I had been in deep prayer, and I felt a heaviness of the Lord's heart, like the Lord, he wants his children to turn to him. He does not want his children in these environments. He doesn't just want the ones that are seeking him every Sunday morning. He wants the furthest one from him. And so I just began to just cry, and I just felt so overwhelmed. As you could see, that was like at the end in that video, that was the end, me actually like getting myself together, because it got deep, it got intense. Okay. And praise the Lord, right after that, I was filled with the spirit of confidence. And I showed up alone. Like, let me just tell you, these people, these I'm saying it like these people, I feel like that's a rude way to introduce someone, but the ministry that came to Las Vegas to do this outreach, I don't know them. I never met them before this day. I learned about them by watching them on a YouTube video that they did about going to Burning Man, and I was intrigued by it. That is, going to a place like that as a Christ follower is very, very difficult. So I kind of just have been following them, on their socials, and randomly, literally like maybe a couple weeks before the outreach, I seen a flyer that they were coming to Vegas. They were going to do the EDC, and they were inviting locals to join. And I did sit on it and pray on it. And there were times where I was just like, do I really belong out there? Like, for what reason should I go out there? But there's many reasons. I know people personally that this is their level of fun, and like, not that I was going out there to like, condemn them or anything, but I just I just felt like the Lord wanted me to go. Okay, we'll just leave it at that. And so, I the whole week prior, and even sometimes before that, I went on multiple fasts. And then once they came and they did the training, I was actually supposed to have a friend come with me. She wasn't able to come. And so, I had to go by myself. And I'm just I'm just a girl, okay? I'm just a woman. And, showing up to a place like this alone is absolutely crazy. Even though the ministry was going to be there, I didn't know them. I don't have any personal relationship with any of them. I was just believing in what they're doing. And so there was also people there was also locals in Las Vegas that joined in, but a lot of them had friends and partners that came along with them. I literally just showed up by myself. And that's another reason why I got so emotional in the car by myself, because here I am alone. I've never done anything like this. And just trying to be obedient. And so, once I got out the car and I made my way to where the rest of the ministry, the team was, I knew the Lord was with me every step of the way, and just how he aligned everything from, the people that I kind of tagged along with. Like, I started out with one girl, and she was very bubbly, and the way that she just explained to me, what the festival was even about. And she told me, don't accept any gifts because a lot of the gifts are cursed. And she actually had like a wrist full of bracelets that she was giving out, but they were anointed in her they were anointed. And so she was just teaching me a lot of different things that I didn't know. And her approach is very bubbly. She just was great at what she was doing. And then I ended up with a couple, and they had a 10-year-old daughter with them, which is amazing because I have a 10-year-old daughter. And I was thinking, like, that would have been an inappropriate place to bring her, or I was thinking that maybe I shouldn't bring her. But they showed me like, I could totally bring my child along um on something like this. And so their approach was a little bit different. It was a little more, reserved, and they took the time to really just uh step by step guide me. And the husband, he sent me like this uh step by step guide of how to do it. And so in the future I need to just make it my own. But a lot of the times I felt like my prayers were coming out unnatural because I was so busy like in my head thinking of the right thing to say. And so I do listen, your girl needs some work here. But it was such an amazing time just learning and witnessing all that the Lord has done, and just I didn't know what people's reactions to prayer and anything Jesus was going to be. And listen, there were some people that were like, don't touch me, I'm a witch, basically stay away from me. But there were a lot of people that were like, yeah, sure, I'll take a prayer, because the approach isn't, like, hey, you're going to hell, like the approach is, like, hey, like I want to bless you, I want to pray over you. And so um that was the gist of the experience. I'm still like floating on a cloud because I never imagined myself. Actually, I'm lying. So it has been a dream of mine. I remember seeing that ministry and I was thinking I would love to do something like that. But I was also thinking like I am nowhere cut out and ready to do anything like that. But listen, that was like within months of me saying that. And here I am in at EDC where there's like hundreds of thousands of people, a lot of them are very intoxicated, coming from different parts of the world. And I just went for it. And even, and this is the last thing that I'll, leave you with. Um, at the very end, so because I arrived by myself, during the daytime, it wasn't as scary because it's daytime. But once it got dark outside, I was nervous to go back to my car alone. And so I did meet a couple different people. I met a woman and her um, daughter-in-law, and they were actually, so the plan was to leave at 11 p.m. Like they got started about 7 and the plan was to leave about 11. And so this woman and her daughter-in-law were going to leave at 9 p.m. And I was thinking I should go with them because so I don't have to walk back by myself. But the Lord told me to stay. And literally as I was thinking about walking back to my car, that's when the other when I talked about the couple, the husband and the wife, the husband, he came over and he was talking to the group of people that I was with. And then I started talking to him. And so he was telling me that he was going to take his wife and his daughter back at 11 p.m. And so if I wanted to stay, I could just walk with them. And I was like, oh my goodness, of course. So I did stay. And listen, I was thinking, okay, I could walk with them and I can get just closer to my car. That'll be way better than, this long distance that I'm walking back to my car. And they literally were like, and they were in the same exact row that I parked, just maybe 8 cars apart. I swear to God. And I was just like, the Lord even thought about my safety at the end, because he knew that I would be worried about getting back to my car alone. And so I remember before, when I found out that my friend wasn't going to be able to go, I remember feeling like, Lord, I know that you want me to go, and I'm going to go, but I'm wondering, why would you want me to go alone? and it's kind of unsafe for me to go alone. And so I remember just, speaking to the Lord that day and just being like, I don't know how you're going to do it, Lord, but I trusted that he was going to do it. And man, oh, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. And there's probably so many more things that I missed, because I could probably go on and on and on forever about this. But I'll tell you this, that there was, thousands of people that got saved, that gave their life to Christ that day. And obviously not off of my back alone, like I was really there learning more than anything. But just watching this ministry, this group of people, and seeing how people responded and how people were so, just they were drawn to that. They were drawn to that Holy Spirit. And so if you're someone that, maybe you're thinking about evangelizing and maybe God has called you to those dark places, I just want to just give you a little motivation that, the Lord will give you the right things to say, and he will provide, the right training, the right tools for you to go and do that. And maybe you're someone that is actually still in darkness, and I just want to encourage you that, your story, you're never too far gone. My personal testimony, the Lord reached me intoxicated in a club. I was very intoxicated, okay? And I started, it was, I had already started feeling the heaviness of I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here. But I didn't know what to do. It was all that I knew. And I got down on my hands and knees, as gross as it is, in a bathroom, intoxicated. And I just begged the Lord to get me out of that situation. Now, I thought he was going to ride in on a magic carpet ride like Aladdin or something like that, which that would have been great. But he didn't. But you know what? He still guided me out of that. And I have not been, I don't know how long it's been that I've been completely, free from even like the feeling of wanting to go back, because there, like even when you break free, even when God removes you from that, you still have these desires. You have like FOMO, like fear of missing out. It's a lifestyle that I lived for so long. And so I had to relearn how to live, and now, I faithfully serve at my church. I love my church. I enjoy going there and just not even to be served, but to serve, and I just live a complete different lifestyle than I did then. And like there's no snap of the finger moment. It was a long process over several years. But I can say that I am free. Like we're always a work in progress. Now I'm not perfect, but I am free. And so there is freedom for anyone who is wanting it, in Jesus. And yeah, that's listen, I feel like I've said a lot, and I feel like I also missed a lot, but I'm just gonna leave it right there. And I just thank you for watching this video. I hope that you got something out of it, whether it's entertainment, maybe you learned something new, maybe you got encouraged today in any kind of way. But I really am just excited to share this journey, and I hope to have more and more content that is entertaining. I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, but I pray that I could continue to produce content that is not just entertaining, but it has substance. So anyways, thank you for watching this video, guys.